Above this antique hardware store is an art gallery called the Loft at Liz's. We're gonna go talk to the owner, Liz, and find out what goes into a successful gallery. So Liz, what's the history of this place? How did you found this company?
Liz's Antique Hardware is actually the base company. The Loft at Liz's is a product of that started many, many years after I opened Liz's Antique Hardware, which originated in Chicago a little over 40 years ago. I literally started by picking through the alleys and going to the local flea markets, and ultimately within a very short period of time I ended up buying out what is called a picker, somebody who collects things throughout the day.
That was in Chicago, right?
That was in Chicago.
Okay.
And whatever he doesn't sell that day ends up in a warehouse, and I ended up meeting him, and I went to go visit him in his warehouse, and I said, "What are you doing with all this junk?" And he said, "I'm looking to get out of the business." So I said, "How much?" He gave me a price and I bought it, and then ended up having an opportunity to move to Los Angeles, and at that point packed everything up and moved and found this location, and I've been here ever since.
Where does that come from? So you're picking, you're finding like all of these interesting things on the street in Chicago. What made you want to take the next step? Like how did you figure out that you needed to partner with somebody else or buy their business? Like where did that whole insight come from?
It just really felt right to me. When I walked in there, I just went, this is just an amazing array of things. There was all this hardware strewn all over the floor and in barrels, and I just found it fascinating. And I thought if I could make that hardware and all of that really accessible, there were people out there that were going to need it.
So it's interesting how you went from looking at antiques to having a business basically with very quickly, it sounds like. So when you think of a topic like nature or gun control, anything like that, how do you go about finding the artists to fill those spots?
Initially, I didn't know any artists, really. And so what I did was I actually put an ad in the paper, and I started to meet a couple of artists that way. I had a couple of nature artists and assemblage artists who actually responded to that.
What did that ad look like?
Oh, it was just a little blurb, and I don't remember it.
Looking
at the
for
time.
artists.
Yeah, at the time I don't even think it was Craigslist. It might have been the Reader or something.
When you're coming in, let's say you're trying to price a new artist, maybe someone who hasn't had a show or anything like that, like are there any rules of thumb for pricing art?
Well, I let them think about it first because they're the ones who are doing their work. They know how many hours. Some artists can create work very quickly. Others take, maybe a year to create a piece. There is a certain amount of, you're an emerging artist, and then from emerging you go to, being a bit more established, and then, as you're in it longer and longer, you're mid-career, and then eventually you're blue chip. Mm-hmm. You hope, if you can stay in it long enough. It's difficult to make a living in art.
So when it comes to telling that story for a specific artist, like how do you build that case? Basically, let's say a buyer comes in, they want to buy art. How are you selling to them? Like what kind of story are you telling them?
There is perhaps an education behind what they are doing. It could be that they're self-taught, but their trajectory is that they are in growth, that they've either had a career behind them or they're building a career. Some of them have had small museum shows, they may have had solo shows, they may be in other group shows. So with an artist comes their CV and their resume and the thoughts behind their work and of course their technical abilities and so on.
During the actual buying process, how much of that is the buyer talking directly to the artist versus you introducing the buyer? Like, what does that actual process look like?
I think that the actual process is somebody comes in and they see a piece of artwork that resonates with them. We're talking to them. We as the gallerists and director of the gallery are talking to them. And there may come a point where they're meeting the artist. If they're here for the opening and the artist is here, then of course then we would introduce them.
That's interesting. So there is though a time where it could, like someone could buy a painting without ever meeting the artist, right?
Of course.
Okay.
And in many cases, that is what happens.
It seems like there are different types of art salesmen. I'm sure you're, like, I would love for you to describe your selling process, but I've been into galleries where somebody's just like, oh, you like that painting? And then they won't give a price on it, or they won't even like really talk about it or like try to sell it. Or they'll be like, yeah, this is all just paintings by one artist. And then there's other galleries where they tell the story and they like really weave it. And there's a difference between those two types of salespeople. What is your process?
We may send them images of the work along with their CV, their resume, their mission statements, and then we see whether they're interested in purchasing the piece. I think when it comes to buying art, they want to have a piece that not only aesthetically works in their place. There are different people buying different art. Some people are decorating, some people are actually collecting. It's a very different person. It's a very different ideology behind the purchasing of art. There's a lot going on here, a lot. It's great. It's a very, very, very dynamic, creative atmosphere of the whole city. It's really wonderful.
Awesome. Thanks for having us. This is
Thank
great.
you so much. Thank you for the interview.
Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. And if you want the actual questions we use on call number 1 to land more clients, go to experiment27.com/discovery. That's free. If you want to check out Lofts at Liz's, that info is down in the description below. I'm Alex Berman.